Hey guys, welcome to Screenshots Casual Talk. Today I'm going to talk about Game of Thrones Season 1. Now, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones Season 1, do not watch this review because it will contain spoilers. With that being said, finally have the opportunity to talk to you about Game of Thrones. Now, this is cool because I am new to Game of Thrones. This is the first time I've watched Game of Thrones. I started watching it last week. The reason why I only started watching it now is because I lost a lot of faith in shows. Normally shows start off really good and then they get really bad. So when everybody talked really good about Game of Thrones when it came out, I was like, I'm gonna wait a few years and see if it actually continues to be good and hear what people have to say. It's been 4 years later. People say it's like one of the best things ever. So I was really interested in seeing it and I have the opportunity to watch it fresh and give you my fresh opinions. I've only watched season 1. I have not watched any second of season 2 because I really wanted this to be the focus of season 1. So here are my opinions on Game of Thrones season 1. First of all, my god, that song is so catchy. It is so catchy. Every time I'm walking through the corridor between the episodes, I'm going dun 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 dun. So you get the picture. The story, what do I have to say about the story and the characters and all that sort of thing? I really like Game of Thrones. Yes, I really do like it. I think it's really well done, really well made. Characters are really interesting, and it really makes you want to know more about this world and more about the characters. And the fact that it doesn't have a main character is also really cool. You could say that season 1 is more about Ned Stark than anybody else, but it still develops a lot of characters. Bran is developed, Daenerys Targaryen is developed, Jon Snow is developed. A lot of characters are developed. The other characters that aren't developed are a huge part of the story, and they're just like these assholes and dickheads, because in season 1 you clearly do have a good versus bad thing going on. You have the Starks versus Lannisters, and you root for the Starks and you're against the Lannisters. There's only one Lannister that is actually really interesting, which is Peter Dinklage, and he's such an amazing character. The guy that he plays, Tyrion Lannister, my god, that is some classy dwarf right there. Wow, he is amazing. I just want to know more about him and listen to what he has to say. And he's a very smart guy. That's what he says. Like, Jaime Lannister has the muscles and he has the brains. That's the thing that is interesting, because he's like the only character that is against his family. Not totally against, but a little bit. He wants to help the Starks because he sees good in them, and he doesn't want to help the Lannisters that much because he sees bad in them. But he is proud to be a Lannister, of course. He really wants to be proud of that name, but he feels like his father, it doesn't appreciate his presence that much, and that was really interesting to see in the end of season 1. So that is a great character. And the whole thing about his past, about him being in love and what his dad did and what Jaime did, and the fact that he loved a girl that was a whore, just him talking about it, for me, was more intense than seeing most of the killings in the whole season. Not like that, because you get to know about the character, you get to really dive into his personality, and I really thought that was really interesting. Also, a character I really liked was Arya. I really like Arya. I think she's a really interesting character. She's going to be a huge character in the future. Everything, like the fact that she doesn't want to be a queen, she doesn't want to be a lady as everybody wants her to be. She doesn't want that. She's a tough girl. She's a kind of like a tomboyish girl, and she wants to be her own person. I thought it was really interesting, especially for a character her age. She's kind of like a mischievous, you know, like a very tricky girl, but she has fun in doing it, but she also has morals. She wants things to go well for people. She doesn't want her family to be in danger. She really likes her family, and you can really tell, and she really wants to, you know, just to be happy and do her own thing. And you really get that when she learns how to fight with the Lionel Richie character. Because let's face it, that guy is Lionel Richie. He's totally Lionel Richie. All night long. I thought that was a very interesting part of the story. Her and that Lionel Richie character, because he's going to be Lionel Richie from now on. I don't care. And you really do see her character develop. Another character that I thought was really interesting was Daenerys Targaryen, especially in the beginning, because she was like this fragile character, and then she becomes like her own woman and independent and becomes like really strong. Though she does become a little bit too strong sometimes when she loses the kid and when she loses Khal Drogo. It was cool to see that end of the story arc. She is a dragon and the dragons hatch with her. That was cool. But I do feel like sometimes she says too much. Oh, I'm the Khaleesi, I can do whatever I want. And those were the same reasons why I did not like her brother. She's kind of doing the same thing. The difference is her brother wasn't actually a dragon and wasn't the king, just being a dickhead. Where she is actually a queen and she actually has the blood of a dragon. That makes sense because her cockiness is justified. She doesn't want to be arrogant, but because she's so confident, she knows exactly what she has to do. Sometimes goes a little bit too far when it's like, I can do this because I'm the queen. I can do this because I'm the queen. And that felt a little bit off with the character. But I do enjoy enjoy her. I think she's a well-developed character, certainly probably the most developed character throughout the whole season, so that was cool to watch. Even though I'm more interested into knowing what is happening with Jon Snow and the Wall, I think his character is really interesting, even though he can be a little bit of a goody two-shoes. When people offend him, he really wants to strike them, and like, you do not talk badly about my father, or this or that or the other. That was cool. I like that. He has morals, he has honor, but at the same time, he wants to defend the people that he loves, and he has reasons for it. You can tell that. I like that. That was cool. The fact that he has all these friends that he got to know and he developed with them, that was also really interesting. The training and the fact that they're going beyond the Wall in season 2, I'm really looking forward to that. That was very, very, very cool. Very interesting to know what happens to Jon Snow. Ned Stark, what do I have to say about him? I like his character, but the decisions that he makes throughout season 1 really, really annoyed me because it's too much. He sometimes does decisions just because he has to be honorable, but he's putting his family in danger in doing them. Like the conversation that he has with Cersei, I know what you and Jaime are, and you should run away with your family. Why? Why is he saying that? Do not say that. That's like you're giving Cersei all the weapons to defeat you. That is so stupid. And the only time that he makes a good decision where he has to confess Joffrey is actually the heir of the throne when he knows he is not. It's too late because Joffrey is such a dickhead and he just wants people to be punished because he thinks that people who do the wrong things have to be punished all the time. And that was annoying because I did like Ned Stark. I just think all the decisions that he made were wrong. Like, do not do this. Do not be as honorable as you think you're being because you're putting your family in danger. Do not do this. And then the only time that he actually makes the right decision to really save his skin and his family, it's too late. I knew he was going to die because he's Sean Bean, and Sean Bean dies in everything that he's in. Spoiler! It's true, he dies in everything that he's in. So from episode 1, I was like, okay, so I know this character is going to die. I know I wanted him to be around longer. I wanted him to be at the Wall, but him dying was actually an interesting part of the story because even though you're honorable, does not mean that you're going to get away with everything and everything is going to be the way you want it to be because it's the right thing to do. You really feel that with Ned Stark, and you feel like Arya wants to have those morals, but at the same time she doesn't want to make the same mistakes as Ned Stark does when she sees him die, and you really feel like that she is going to learn from this in season 2 and season 3. Maybe not, maybe I'm totally wrong. That's what I felt when I'm watching it. Basically, like, the nitpicks that I have with the show are the huge amount of egos. Oh, I know you did this, and then the other guy egotistical, like, I know you did this, and then it's always back and forth until somebody can't answer back because like somebody says, I know this huge thing, and then the guy's like, and the other guy just like, and walks away. It happens a little bit too many times, I feel. I get it because it's the Game of Thrones, it's you want to be the king. All of these games, mischief and betrayals are happening, but it's sometimes a little bit too much. Sometimes there's not enough reason for those things to happen. The fact that you want to be king is not reason enough to do all those things, and it seems like everybody wants to be king in this show. Would that really happen? Would so many people want to be king? I mean, if you're king, then people would want to do that to you. So is that a good thing to do? To put your life on the line like that? I just feel it's a bit too much. It makes sense because you have that greed, and greed does exist, and people want power and fame and money and control everything. I get that, but isn't it a little bit too much? Maybe not. Maybe not. It's believable. I'll say it's believable, but it's not entirely convincing for me. But it is what the show is. It's the Game of Thrones, so that's a huge part of the story. And if you've seen the South Park episodes with the PS4 versus Xbox One, it really does hit the nail on the nose when you see the characters like Cartman talking to everybody and betraying every person that you had a relationship with, and that is kind of like what Game of Thrones is. And sometimes it might go a little bit too far in that sense, but I'm not saying it's a bad show because it's a great show. I really like Game of Thrones, but it is a nitpick that I have. People say that the show has to do with the Battle of the Roses, the Lancashire and Yorkshire ordeal, and it takes a huge influence from that. But at the same time, I do feel like it has something to do with the American Civil War from the 1700s and 1800s. I'm not sure about that, but it did seem like that when I was watching it. I also feel like the Dothrakis are kind of like a reference to the Indians, their whole tribe and stuff. So I do feel it takes references from that and influences from that, and that was cool. I think the Wall also takes a huge thing from something from the medieval times. I don't know. It could be even something from the Berlin Wall. I don't know. There's a lot of things that it does take influence from, and you can feel like there's a lot of historical elements. It's really well thought out, and you really do feel like the characters are in a world that really does exist in a fantasy world. And I like that mixture, you know, because Lord of the Rings is a bit too much of a fantasy sometimes, and here it's grounded with some fantasy elements, and that was cool. That is really cool because its own thing but at the same time it's everything, and that's something I really enjoy about movies or shows. And it is really cool to see a show done in a season like this, and just really well constructed and really well written. Of course, it's George R.R. Martin's story, but at the same time, HBO doing a show like this, still really well written. It's a lot thanks to HBO too, and all the production value and all the characters and everything of it. It's really good. I think that the directing is really good, really great actors. The CGI in this is amazing because it's used as details and not as a huge part of the show, and I like that. You know, that's another reason why I think it's really well grounded, because you do feel like the characters are the most important thing of the story, and the fantasy elements or everything around it shows you better about the characters and everything else. So that is cool, and I like that Game of Thrones does this. And yeah, those are basically my opinions of Game of Thrones Season 1. What do you think about the show? Do you think the show is really good? Do you think it is as good as people say it is? Is it not? Because I'm really looking forward to know what your opinions about it. So leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. You can see all my Facebook page, blog, and Twitter page right here below me. You got 3 reviews right here. And I'll see you guys in the future. And don't forget, these are my personal opinions.